These are some books and series that actually do slow burn well. And we're gonna start off with Jabre, The Crowns of Oaths and Curses. So Jabre really understood the assignment because there's actually no romantic connection whatsoever between our FMC and our MMC at all in the first book. The slow burn is the slowest of the slowest of the slow. I also want to mention another series by Jabre, and this is the Broken Bonds series by Jabre. Slowest of the slowest of burns. I believe there's 6 novels in the series, and we slowly get a romantic connection from someone in every book, but the entire group, this is a Why Choose novel, by the way, the entire group of 6 don't come together fully until book 5 or so. So it's very, very slow burn. And even after everyone decides that, you know, we're gonna choose each other, we're gonna choose this relationship, there's still one that's like, no. So in terms of slow burn, yeah, if you have the patience and you want to wait for those books, Jabre definitely does slow burn really well. The Cruel Shifterverse. This is Jasmine Mass, and this is another Why Choose series of books where we don't actually get our FMC to choose our MMCs until the 3rd book in the trilogy. So there's so much resistance, there's so much bullying and things that happen in this series, and you know, our FMC is very much combative and wanting to fight and not willing to give over her autonomy for these men, and I was totally 100% here for it. Jasmine Mass writes some great stuff. I also want to mention Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Mass. I would say that that's slow burn because in the first book, we actually don't even know who the romantic lead is, and it is a fantasy romance. Oh, I'm glad that I added this on Wings of Blood. So the 2nd book in this series was actually released last month, and it is a slow burn. We're in the 2nd book, and our FMC has 2 different options, and she hasn't really chosen either one of the gentlemen just yet. So we will have to see who she actually chooses. But I know how I hope she chooses, and I won't be naming that because that would be a spoiler, but I know who I hope she chooses. Also, really interesting magic system. We have dragons, we have fae, we have shifters, we have vampires, we have lots of stuff going on. So if you haven't read on Wings of Blood at all, then yeah, you probably want to check that out. Legendborn by Tracy Dion. So we're in the 3rd book in the Legendborn saga, I believe it is. No, Legendborn cycle is what it is. And we thought we knew who the love interest was, but I feel like the love interest is actually somebody else. It's definitely slow burn. Definitely slow burn because these 2 actually have been enemies before. So we'll see if the love story is actually going in that direction, and the fact that we're in the 3rd book and I'm not exactly sure, that tells you how slow burn this is. Ashes of Thesmar. So if you actually did have the misfortune of reading Legends of Thesmar, you know this couple, and you know that this couple has pretty much been a thing since book 2 of that, and their love story is finally kicking off essentially 4 books later in book 2 of the Ashes of Thesmar. So we're in a whole nother series, and we're finally seeing these 2 together, that they have a connection and that they want to be with each other. So slowest of the slowest of slow burns. The Book of Azriel. It took 2 books for Sam Kyle, who is our MMC, to really get Diana to admit the things. In the third book, you know, some other things happen. In the third book, you have things that happen in the things that make it very clear that the things that you thought from the first book are actually thingy. So, yeah. The Kindred's Curse Saga. So this is slow burn. Even though we know from the very beginning who the love interests are and they have interest in each other, they still take their time to go there in the Kindred's Curse Saga. Can we please get the fourth book? Can we please get Burn of the Everflame? We've been waiting on this book for over a year now, so can we please get this book, please? Please, release the book in November. Let it be a surprise. Be like Beyonce and just, you know, drop the book. We'll all be happy for it. The Wheel of Time. So there is a prophecy, there is a foretelling that happens where the fortune teller knows who the love interests are for our hero in this. And we all know from very early in the books, but the love story doesn't really develop until the last books, and there are 14 books in this series. So even though we know, there's not really anything that truly happens until like the last two books. There's really nothing that happens concretely until the last two books. It's show thing. I mean, there is, but there isn't. And the official thing doesn't even happen between the love interest. If you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about and why I'm talking like I am. But there is no, like, it's not even marketed as a fantasy romance, but it's a romance. And it's a slow burn, so it's in this video. So yeah, like the slowest of slow burns. The Stormlight Archive. We really get some juicy stuff. Stormlight Archive book 3 in terms of romance, but then not even, because you think that you know where the romance is going and it may or may not shift. So we'll see, because I have to read book 4 and 5 and I have to read Dawn Shard. So we'll see if the direction is even gonna change and the love interest is even gonna change, because that is totally a possibility. We'll see. House in the Cerulean Sea is here because we get through the entire book and then we find out, oh, this entire time the person was attracted to me and it wasn't that obvious. It's very cute. It's very lighthearted, fun, funky, fresh. Very much that. And by the end of it, it's like, oh, okay, so this was actually a MM romance. Low key, but not low key. So very much so that. Same author, different direction, slow burn, Wolf Song. We watch these characters grow up together and become adults, and we watch through history their love happen. Another historical romance that's also a historical fantasy romance, so just like Wolf Song, you have Peaches and Honey, where you follow these two characters throughout centuries because they're immortal, and you watch their love story not develop and then develop. So another slowest of the burns, and that's a series. That's a series. I just haven't continued on in the series because I mean the Peaches and Honey was done so well. I really don't see what more there could be added to it, but maybe one day, like, I'll go back and I'll pick that up. But yeah, 5-star slow burn, fantasy romance, historical fiction kind of deal. Quest of Awakening is a slow burn because we are following two different POVs the entire book, and our two characters don't actually meet up until midway to the end. And one of our characters cannot deal with his sexuality. He can't rationalize his sexuality because he's king. Well, he's the future king of the kingdom, so he feels this pressure in order to do his kingly duties to continue the line, so he can't even really acknowledge the fact that he's in love with another man in this. So for that reason, this is a slow burn fantasy romance. We have wizards and dragons and lots of different kinds of magic included in this. So, but slowest of the slowest of burns. Quicksilver, and I know I'm gonna get some heat for this because there's so much sexual dialogue in Quicksilver. However, our FMC, Sarah's Fang, she doesn't actually give in to her desires with the Quicksilver stuff until the end. So I'm still gonna call this a slow burn. It's a slow burn. ACOTAR is a slow burn to me because we start off in book 1 and she has a totally different love interest than she ends up with in the end. And I'm talking about Feyre and Rhysand in that particular one. But you also have Nesta and Cassian, who, I mean, Cassian was always in love with Nesta, but Nesta was not feeling Cassian at all for the first 3 books and novella. So, and most of the last book, you know, she wasn't feeling anybody, including herself. So, slowest of the burns for 2 different characters in this. And if you even want to go there, you can talk about the third sister, whose name I don't even remember, y'all. But you could talk about the third sister who gets with our boy from book 1, from the Autumn Court. We can talk about them. So, and maybe we'll see more of their love story. Maybe they'll get their own set of 3. Throne of Glass. So, yeah, you don't really get into the love story in Throne of Glass until book 3-ish. Or maybe even book 4, Air of Fire. You don't really get into the love story until way deep down. So, yeah, I'm gonna say Throne of Glass is definitely slow burn. But Throne of Glass is also high fantasy. So, the romance isn't the focus, and the romance, the story could still happen without the romance, and that's why I categorize that as high fantasy and not fantasy romance. The Deep. The Deep is such a slow burn. We end up getting some of the sapphic elements in The Deep at the end of the book. Before that, I mean, you could look at it as intrigue, observation, and you could ignore the romantic kind of way that it is if you choose to do that until the very end of the book, and then it's like, oh, y'all go together real bad. The Red Rising Saga. For me, you don't really get the true love elements in the Red Rising Saga until Morning Star. I mean, yes, there are moments, even in the first book, there are moments in book 2, but then there's a secret that's revealed in book 2, and we don't really get to understand or find out the decision that happens until book 3. And then, you know, the romance is concrete, book 4, 5, and so on. But yeah, it's not concrete in the first book. Second book, you know, the person that we think our love interest is going to be for our MMC, she's with another dude. I mean, so yeah, slowest of the burns. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. Ciao.